Hello, everybody. Fighting Crypto here once again. In today's topic, I want to tell you about one of my crypto gems. Not essentially, it is my favorite or my most bullish crypto long term. Short term, it's going to do very well, but this is what I'm looking at as the main one if I'm going to invest fully into it as like a life security or a long term investment. It's this one. So before I jump right into it, let me tell you like how to look for these things, right? Follow FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. When people are talking down on a coin, they're shit talking it. No one's talking about it otherwise, like in any good positive light. If it's a good project, that's kind of a big deal. That's a requirement for what I'm looking for a long-term play. If people aren't talking about in any positivity, but it's a great company, a good project, that's a good one in my eyes to start looking into a little bit. And I personally like utility coins because they have use. And when there's use, we make money from it, or at least the company is going to keep making money. So long term, utility really matters. Short term, not as much. I mean, you can have a fucking meme coin that just has a picture of a frog, a dog, a hybrid of anything, and it could end up doing well. It has nothing to do with utility. But for long term, it really does matter because as money comes into a company, what do you know? It grows. And again, I like looking at ones that people don't talk about in any positive way. Easy examples of this recently was like XRP and HBAR. If you don't remember this, or if you weren't into crypto for more than about, I don't know, 3 months, people would talk so down on these two coins, call them stable coins, call them dead coins. And both of them increased was around 500, 600% in a week, a couple months back, or during the presidential election. So those are things that we look for. So one, if you're new to this channel, welcome. Hopefully by the end of this, you find this well worth subscribing, liking it down below. And if you're going to do one, you might as well do the other. I mean, if you press the subscribe button and not the like, don't want to get them all a little jealous about each other, right? You can always ring the little ding thing so you get notified when new videos come out. And let's just jump into it today. So today I'm talking about Quant. I'm going to pull out some charts in a little bit, most likely. So I'm going to go for it. If you've never heard of Quant or QNT, why am I so freaking bullish on it? It's being set up. Nothing is guaranteed with this yet, but it's very much being set up to be running the CBDCs of at least Europe, Australia, Japan is looking incredibly likely. And it got its toes a little mixed in everywhere else because it is in bed, so to speak, with the Bank of International Securities, which is pretty much the bank that watches over, resides all the other national banks. It's a big deal. And in pretty much any business, it's not what you know as much as who do you know and who do you know that knows who. And Quant really kind of has that set. So again, I fully expect Quant to do quite well this cycle, but I think it's going to get a pop at the end of 2025. It did last time. It started boosting up at the end of the last bull market. I think it's going to happen this time too, and I'll get in a little bit of a reason why I think that is, of course, as well as a price prediction. So for those who do not know or haven't heard of Quant, or it's been a little while because you thought it was a dead coin, let's go briefly over what it is and why I'm so freaking bullish on it. So its big thing is interoperability. What the heck does that mean? It helps connect every little thing to help things run more seamlessly. It runs by something called the Overledger, which this is their kind of we'll call it a blockchain that connects a bunch of other blockchains together to instantly interact and send data through. Let me explain this in like a real-time example. All right, so if we have a credit card and we slide the credit card, right, it pulls out credit, so to speak, from our card, and eventually you can pay it off with the bank account. And all these charges, they take a couple hours to a couple days to come in, and that's just going from this digital credit line to just acknowledge, letting us know that we owe it, right? And then we can pay the credit card, and it still might take hours to days to be able to go, especially if you do it after business hours on like a Friday, right? Well, the goal and plan with something like this is imagine that you put a charge through, whether it's a card or a bank account, and everything happens instantaneously within a couple of seconds, like less than 5 seconds. That can be massive because banks that are sending hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars at a time across countries going from one fiat currency or digital currency to another, there's no layaway time. It goes immediately into it. And Quant does not advertise to the retail investors. Not at all. They don't need to be completely honest. And that does piss off a lot of people. Like, why don't you talk about yourselves? Well, because they're not guiding towards us. They rather banks and government agencies use them, and it's who they talk to. So again, a big thing about how a project's going to go or a company is going to go is who do they know? So let's go a little bit just touching, dipping into who Quant is working with and why it matters so freaking much, right? So they are the base for something called Project Rosalind. Right? If you've looked into it all, CBDCs, which are the central bank digital currencies that every country is trying to make their own digital dollar, so to speak, you're going to hear, I'm expecting we're going to hear President Trump talk about this a lot in the next 3 months after he's inaugurated. Project Rosalind is about getting that to happen pretty much flat across the board, right? So they work with the Central Bank of London. That's a big one. They're already in testing the CBDCs with the Bank of London, with the Bank of Korea, and they recently signed up a deal with, I believe it was XRP, to jump in and do with the Bank of Japan, and they're looking at Bank of Australia to test all that too. You're testing it if you're expecting it to happen. And I at least looked into Bank of London and Bank of Australia. They're not testing anybody else. Always a great sign, right? And again, the Bank of International Settlements is who is funding or helping to push this Project Rosalind. Reason again why it's such a big deal is it's the oldest international financial institution that is out there. It's owned and governed by over 63 central banks, which makes up over 95% of the entire world's GDP. That's a good guy to have in your corner, right? And they're the ones who's backing and running Project Rosalind and using Quant Ledger for it. So this is one of those projects. It's not an if it's going to do well. It's much more of a when. Again, it's going to do fine in the next, we'll call it 12 months. I think the bull run is going to end closer to about 8 from now. Call it beginning of Q4 of 2025. That's my opinion. We'll find out. So the first big run up we had in this bull run is people call it the Dino coins, the bank coins, but there's something called this ISO 20022. Short, what that is digital crypto coins, currency projects that are helping transfer into fiat. They're banking coins, right? Quant is certainly one of them. XRP, HBAR, XLM, Algo. All these are in the same category, and you'll see them go up and down together because that's the way the bull run works, is that everything in the same narrative, the same niche, tends to go up and down together. And you'll even notice, at least in previous patterns, you'll end up noticing that they usually go from large caps, come up first in every given niche, and then works the way down. Meaning, let's say HBAR right now, or XRP is a higher market cap, right? So when the next ISO narrative, so to speak, pumps, expect XRP and HBAR to go up first because they're in the multi-billions, right? And then maybe Quant, and then maybe go down the chain. And you can kind of predict these things to where you might sell the high, if you have HBAR or XRP, when they burst, you might sell some of that and put it down to one of the smaller ones, expecting them to go up next. It is a process and just a theory that you can end up working with. No financial advice, by the way. You guys have been here more than once. You should know that. So the reason why I think this is going to really take off at the end of November has nothing to do with the fact that it did last time. I actually haven't looked back to see why that happened last cycle. But the reason why I think is this time is that the ISO 20022 is things like a programming language. And these are the coins that are helping out with that program. I know it's getting a little nerdy. Stick with me here for just a couple more seconds. All right. But they're supposed to have all the regulations of what they expect to do with these ISO coins, or just the ISO project in general, by November of 2025. They actually are able to start talking about or releasing their regulation guidelines and concepts and what they want in March. I think it's 25th of this year. Feel free to Google that and yell at me if I'm off by a day or 3. They'll be fine. I'll argue back and just say, shit, you're right. At the very least, by November, they're going to announce what these regulations on these coins are going to be, which, presuming it's positive in terms of CBDCs, Quant, I'm expecting to jump up significantly at this point. And I do think that's going to be at the end of the bull run. It might be after almost everything comes up. We'll see. It depends on if you believe there's going to be a double top or a double crash or a super cycle or any of these other jargon that people just make up names because we're guessing what the hell's going to happen. But there's my guess. I think that once they get the regulations on the ISO 20022 coins, I think it's going to be the last big boom for probably all of these. We'll see how things go at that. So other than just the excitement that this might be the main blockchain that runs multiple large countries, CBDCs from about 2020, yeah, they said 2025, they might get started realistically by 2030. I think they'll really be running, but have Japan, Australia, England, and just the largest international bank of all time behind it. Cool. So let's look at some charts in pretty much now, shall we? So something about Quant that a lot of quanties like to talk about is the rarity of it, right? How rare is this coin? And if you end up looking right now, we got a total supply of, let's call it 15 million. Most of that is out right now. Actually, right here shows you circulating supply of 12 million. Awesome. Everyone likes to talk about how it's more rare than Bitcoin, which it is. Scarcity is part of what can make the price skyrocket. The other part is demand, right? Bitcoin has a huge demand, and it's going to be maxed out at 21 million, 25 million. I really should know that. Comment in the section below to yell at me for not knowing that off the top of my head. Quant, 15 million, 14.88, whatever. We can all read this here. So when it starts building more desire, which I do think is going to happen when it starts running CBDCs, it's kind of going to be required because it's going to be used. Every time there's a transaction used on the overledger, they use a little bit of quant. That's how the use ends up going, is that if we transfer $100,000 from Bank of London to Bank of Japan or whatever, we're going to spend a little bit of quant. So it goes in the cycle and circuit, and well, you know, finances move. So quant, first off, the price is fixed, which makes it non-inflationary, which for regulations is a big freaking deal, right? Like the whole point of crypto was for dysregulation and decentralization. And of course, when you see the chance of making millions to billions of dollars, who's going to want in? Well, banks, government agencies, and they're going to make regulations and make it more centralized. And that's maybe not ideal in the crypto world, but I'm very willing to make money off of it. So if we look here right now, the price today is 104. I actually bought a few more quant today. Should have waited an extra 2 hours. I paid $1 more for it. Damn. All right. So let's look at the chart. Let's go for the year. To be honest, it kind of looks like it has been. We had the pop where everyone else did here in March, and then it kind of just went down, and it was great DCAing opportunities for everyone who got in sooner, because I've been paying anywhere between, I got in like 90, I think. I paid up to 120, and then I got down again in the 60s. 120 is my cutoff for DCAing on this coin, in case you were curious or interested. But nothing super exciting on the chart other than the fact that it hit 150 and the 165 here already this year. The all-time high was, I think it was in the, let's actually look. I can pull it up. What do you know? It was in the upper 400s, 450. What are we going to call it here? I know it went higher than that. Can we find it anywhere? So we'll go by what we can see here. And we're looking at the upper 300s. So I guess it didn't dip over that one. So is it going to hit the same thing? Well, I certainly think so. I have no reason to think that it's not going to hit the all-time high. Again, there's being talked about, it's going to be closer to regulation. It's going to be used. There's going to be a lot more money coming into crypto than it was last cycle. Not for nothing. And it is still a larger market cap as the top 100. It kind of floats around number 75 and 85, I think was the highest I've seen it. Today it looks like it's at 80. But this is just the health history of quant. And we get here into it booms in the bull run. But again, if you were in the bull market last time, this was kind of laid into it. Almost everything else popped. And a lot of things were essentially dead at that point. You know, that 70, 90% drop from their all-time highs. And then quant decided, screw it, it's my turn. And then it just kind of went and settled. So I'm expecting something very similar this coming time. So where's my price prediction with quant, right? So I've been kind of getting in the habit of giving 2 price predictions. I'm sure it's obnoxious to you guys, but I got to explain why, right? So most of the time when YouTubers, analysts, whatever, give you a price prediction, they're going by what they think the all-time top is going to be. And typically when this happens, we see that sharp candle wick, straight line up and almost immediately straight line down. For that, I could see reaching right around that $900 to $1,000 mark. In terms of actually having the time to buy or sell, where it's actually in a zone where it's not just a couple of seconds or minutes that skyrockets up from everyone putting in their liquidity and their buy, sell limits, etc. I'm thinking realistically around the 700 to 900. I know that's a decent sized range, but that is where I'm expecting for this bull run. I hear people talking about 1,500, 2,500, and I would love for that to be true. I think that's a little moon boyish. I would be completely out of quant by the time it gets up to 2,500. But my personal strategy, I'm willing to sell all of quant this round. As long as it hits my numbers, I have no problems. I also have no problems carrying it over because I plan on rebuying it in the bear market. So if I'll just take, this is only my strategy with quant, by the way. My other coins, different strategy altogether with this one. But everything I make from selling Quant in the bull run, I'm going to put back into Quant in the bear market to get more coins from it. Again, I fully believe in this coin long term. It's also a very safe short term play, in my opinion, just because, again, it deals with regulations. Trust me, they're going to be talking about it a lot more. And it's got a huge following. And there's a couple guys that really should. My memory just doesn't work much anymore. It happens after you turn 30. Wonder what's going to look like in a few more at 40, right? But a lot of these guys are following the wallets, and there are several wallets for Quant that has only Quant and no Ethereum or anything for gas fees. They're just stalking Quant, and we're thinking this is a reserve, whether it's reserved for staking, which is going to be happening eventually. Be great news when they give that information out, right? Or just for everything on the banking side to have a reserve a Quant for the Bank of England, Bank of London, whatever, Bank of Japan, so they can have their little storage. That's what some of the guys who are really digging in the analytics think. And I got no reason to not think that as well. We'll find out in due time. So, one, if you've been here for this long and you haven't already, please do subscribe. It really does help out a channel small like myself. Press the like button and give me any of your thoughts and opinions down below. Do you love Quant? Do you hate Quant? Have you never heard of this darn coin before? What plays are you into? What is your safest play in your opinion? Please let me know in the comments below. I can almost guarantee I'll respond to it. I guess I'll talk to you guys all again soon. Fighting Crypto out.